Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel, Context by Bones. I'll be bringing to your hearing and to your view the global context. And on the scene right now, we have a breaking news. This is the United States of America Special Forces captures Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro alongside his wife overnight. And he has been transferred and extradited back to the United States of America. Presently, he's in New York, and President Trump also confirmed that on his ex handle. Nicolas Maduro has been charged with narco terrorism and he's been called a terrorist. So let's look into how it was being captured and the whole scenario about it. We talk about global leaders, their reaction towards that. Let's dive into it.
The United States hit Venezuela with a large-scale strike early Saturday and said its president, Nicolas Maduro, had been captured and flown out of the country. Here's what to know. Multiple explosions and low-flying aircraft were seen in Caracas in the early hours of Saturday morning. Maduro's government immediately accused the US of an imperialist attack on civilian and military installations. US President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social that Maduro had been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. He added that the operation was done in conjunction with US law enforcement. The apparent attack itself lasted less than 30 minutes. Trump said in his social media post that the strike was carried out successfully. It comes after the Trump administration has escalated pressure on Maduro, who has decried US military operations against alleged drug traffickers as a thinly veiled effort to oust him from power. It was not immediately clear who was running the country, and Maduro's whereabouts were not immediately known.
Running breaks your joints. Tai Chi builds them back. After 50,
I do want to go to Omar Jimenez, who is following these helicopters landing in New York, which you were looking at just moments ago. Omar, what are you seeing?
Yeah, so you heard John Miller talking about three helicopters that took off from Newburgh, headed out this way. We just saw three helicopters land, matching roughly the time it would take to fly by helicopter here. What you're looking at right now is what has been an increased law enforcement, one that's increased pretty steadily over the last few hours since we've been out here. We actually have been pushed much further back. This is the heliport here where all of this, the variety of law enforcement, predominantly NYPD, but we've seen federal officers here as well, including DEA agents, a mass of them that just came in within the last few minutes to this area as well. We're waiting to see, we can hear the helicopters. We saw them land just beyond our view here, three of them, it appeared. So we're waiting for them to go into what would be sort of this indoor area, and then they would come into presumably one of these vehicles where they would then go for processing here at a federal building in New York City. Now, for those that aren't familiar with sort of the geography of Manhattan and New York City, we are on the west side of Manhattan, what's known as the West Side Highway. Both lanes in both directions have been closed off by law enforcement to this point. This is typically a very busy area. We are now seeing lights from the New York Police Department turn on. That has not been the case previously to this point. We can still hear the motor of the helicopters to this, but I can't stress enough, this has been the highest level of law enforcement presence we have seen to this point, one that has been steadily increasing over the past few hours, Jessica.
Yeah, and Omar, we see the DEA agents there walking past the cameras as well. Okay, Omar, stay with us. Let's bring John Miller back in to help us understand what we're looking at here. John, Omar describing the scene. We are in the middle. It's actually very close to where we're broadcasting from right now. It's right behind our building. But we are in the middle of Manhattan where this is happening. Take us through what you're seeing in the scene.
Well, what you're seeing is a joint force. You have DEA agents, FBI agents, and a contingent of NYPD people broken into specialized units that are going to make this critical move. Obviously, this is done under very tight security because you're dealing with an individual who is charged with being in league with some of the most violent drug cartels in the world, who is also a world leader in his own right, or was at least until this morning. But what you're looking at there is a armored vehicle that is what they call a Bearcat. This is an armored vehicle that contains what they call a CAT team, a counter assault team, which is part of this motorcade. So you'll have a vehicle that will contain President Maduro and his wife, maybe in a separate vehicle. You'll have the escort vehicles, which are from NYPD's Highway Patrol. They have the route between where they are and the location they are going to frozen. As we watch that move out, we see the van, and then we're going to see the armored vehicle following that, which is the counter assault team.
They're driving to Brooklyn now? Is that the plan?
They're driving to a separate location. For security reasons, we're not going to get into that location on the air live, but that location is a secure law enforcement facility. They are going to go through the booking process there, and then they are going to go to that other location. So you see the armored vehicles, you see the van.
There are several reactions circulating around this. Different world leaders has condemned what Donald Trump has done by capturing the Venezuela's president. They said it is against international law. Let us take a quick look at this.
The capture of Venezuela's president is no longer just a regional crisis. It has triggered a global diplomatic confrontation. Now, China has broken its silence after U.S. forces captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. Calling the move a blatant use of force, China says Washington has crossed a serious line. China says it is deeply shocked. In a sharply worded statement, Beijing condemns the U.S. military strike on Venezuela and the capture of its president. China's foreign ministry calls the action a blatant violation of international law, saying Venezuela's sovereignty has been trampled. Beijing accuses Washington of hegemonic behavior, warning that the move threatens peace and security across Latin America and the Caribbean. China says it firmly opposes the use of force against a sovereign state and rejects any justification offered by the United States. Earlier, Iran and Russia launched a scathing attack on U.S. over its Venezuela operation. Tehran's foreign ministry issued a lengthy condemnation, calling the attack a clear breach of Venezuela's sovereignty and international law. Iran describes the operation as unlawful, warning that such actions undermine global stability and set a dangerous precedent. Russia also responded swiftly and forcefully. In a rare early morning statement, Moscow accused the United States of committing armed aggression. The Russian Foreign Ministry rejects Washington's justification outright, calling it untenable. Moscow says ideological hostility has replaced diplomacy and warns that escalation could spiral beyond control. From Beijing to Tehran to Moscow, major powers are lining up against Washington's move.
Donald Trump posted a Venezuela raid video showing multiple blasts in capital Caracas. Minutes later, he follows up with a photo he claims shows Nicolas Maduro in U.S. custody. And then comes the statement, the clearest signal yet of Washington's intentions. The first post is a video, a Venezuela raid, multiple blasts, heavy fire, all soundtracked to Fortunate Son. Donald Trump puts it online himself. The footage spreads instantly. The timing appears deliberate. No official briefing, just the visuals, the music, and the message. Then comes the image. Trump posts the photo on his Truth Social platform, a blindfolded man seated. Trump identifies him as Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. The caption reads, Nicolas Maduro on board the USS Iwo Jima. No further details are provided. Within hours, Trump escalates again, this time with words. Trump announced U.S. is going to run Venezuela until a safe transition of power can take place.
Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi, and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer, all perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that. The first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that. And the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer. America will never allow foreign powers to rob our people or drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did. Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night. Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries. And not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal. But we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Monroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. Our precision and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. Everyone's coming back to us. The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security. These are core to our national security. Just like tariffs are, they've made our country rich, and they've made our national security strong, stronger than ever before. Capacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives. Very importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American Armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist, Maduro, is finally gone in Venezuela. People are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free. America is a safer nation this morning. It's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And the Western Hemisphere is right now a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody for being here. These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea, just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in a ready, what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated.
Now we want to get again to NBC's Julie Sirkin. She is near Mar-a-Lago this morning with the very latest. Again, Julie, we'll hear from the president in a matter of hours this morning. He was the one who made that announcement only a couple of hours after we first heard reports from eyewitnesses on the ground of those fiery explosions taking place in and around Caracas.
That's right, Peter. And at least some of the questions that we've been asking are beginning to be answered. And that is because we have a new post, some new information from Attorney General Pam Bondi, who posted on X a short moment ago. This is a new update since we last spoke, Peter, saying Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. Remember, this is where Maduro was indicted nearly 6 years ago on drug trafficking charges and narco-terrorism charges. And now, of course, we know, according to Bondi, he has been charged with narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and those destructive devices against the United States. Bondi going on to say that Maduro and his wife will soon face the full wrath of American justice on American soil in American courts. And as you've been laying out all hour, Peter, all morning long, this is just the latest step, the latest escalation in what we've seen from the administration over the last 6 months that started with the targeting of alleged drug boats off the coast of Venezuela in September that had killed more than 100 people since those operations began. We know there was a land strike that took place for the very first time over this last week. And of course, Congress, Democrats and Republicans asking very key questions, including what authority the administration had. We know Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been working the phones in these early morning hours trying to brief some lawmakers of why this took place and why now. And of course, many more questions will be answered later this morning, we hope, from the president at his news conference. Peter.
think the charges are held.
President Trump announcing the U.S. will run Venezuela for now, after dictator Nicolas Maduro and his wife were captured by American forces under cover of darkness in a daring overnight mission. Maduro is being brought to New York City to face federal narco-terrorism charges and could appear in court as early as Monday. President Trump says he will bring the full weight of the American justice system against the deposed Venezuelan dictator.
All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. Maduro and his wife will soon face
White House. Madeline.
Good afternoon, John. Well, the nitty-gritty details of how the U.S. will run Venezuela remain pretty scant, despite the president being pressed about it repeatedly today. He says that the U.S. will be running Venezuela for an indefinite period of time. He did not give a time frame for that. He did not also rule.
In the darkness of a New York airfield, this was the American end of a president's arrest. Video appeared to show Nicolas Maduro walking off a plane onto the tarmac around 50 miles north of Manhattan. He appeared to wear a grey sweatshirt and shackles as he walked down the steps from the plane and into a hangar, surrounded by federal agents. This was Operation Absolute Resolve. The US used technology to turn off the lights in downtown Caracas as troops moved in to move out a sitting president. Inside the compound of Nicolas Maduro, he was caught as he tried to make his way to a steel-reinforced safe room. He was arrested with his wife and taken to the USS Iwo Jima for onward transport to New York. The man they call a narco-terrorist will face drug-running charges.
It was an assault like people have not seen since World War II.
Donald Trump didn't underplay the operational success. He'd watched from a situation room, makeshift, in Mar-a-Lago. Maduro, he said, had been bum-rushed by US forces as he tried to flee. For the Americans, it was a result, no question. At a Mar-a-Lago news conference...
Okay, thank you very much. This is big stuff.
...now eyeing for profit. There were demonstrations in Caracas in support of the seized president. In his news conference, Donald Trump said the vice president had been sworn into the top job. But at the National Assembly, she backed the boss who'd been snatched.
Solo venezolano, ni una venezolana. The extremist that has promoted this armed violence against our country will pay. History and justice will make them pay. We have no doubt. Hay un solo presidente en este país. There is only one president in this country, and he is called Nicolas Maduro Moros.
The hour of freedom has arrived. That was the verdict of Venezuela's opposition leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado. Many saw her as a natural successor, but not so Donald Trump.
Well, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within, or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect to be the leader.
There is uncertainty at what comes next for Venezuela, and concern. That extends to members of Congress here in Washington, who weren't consulted before the military action. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says that was down to operational secrecy. Opposition Democrats have condemned what they say is a plan to occupy Venezuela. In New York, the United Nations Secretary General has expressed deep concern that international law could have been breached. And then there's the question of precedent. What other countries aren't aligned with Donald Trump? Who else could conceivably be next?
Well, that's that for this. I will be bringing you so much every other aspect of this news, the other presidents and how they are moving forward with how they are going to be charged, both the husband and the wife. Bye for now. Signing out. This is Context by Bones.